This brings a whole new dynamic to communication. You're dealing with different time zones, you're dealing with people around the world, you're dealing with a whole new set of parameters. A few of the different things you can do to be sure that you're successful with virtual teams include simple tools like email. When you're dealing across time zones, you want to be sure that you are sending messages that are very clear and organize yourself utilizing email. I know I've said to you throughout this course that face-to-face and telephone are important, but when you're working with a virtual team, you want to be sure that you create a structure. You want to be sure that you have an operating rhythm with that group. Email, in this case, is the tool and the vehicle through which you can communicate. The key is you've got to be sure that every member of your virtual team understands that email will be that tool of communication. You want to be sure that you're using language that is not with idioms or colloquialisms. You want to be sure that you're using everyday language. Avoid the use of humor. Avoid jokes that somebody may not get. Stick with business. Stick with facts as you're communicating across the emails. One of the risks of using email as a primary source of communication is something getting lost in translation, something getting lost through the written word with team members that are in different parts of the world and perhaps where English is a second or even a third language. What I would encourage you to do as a leader of a virtual team is to be sure that forgiveness is present. Be sure that you're giving people the benefit of the doubt. One example I can give you was a situation where I was working in England. One of the engineers called me over. He shared with me an email. He was working collectively with another individual in Canada. And he showed me the email and he said, "Lorraine, look at this. Look at what this guy said to me." And I looked at it. I read the email. I said, "I'm so sorry, but I really don't understand what the problem is with this email." Something got completely lost in translation. There was an inference from the email. Sometimes the words are just the words. There's nothing in between the words. It's important to give others the benefit of the doubt before reacting to that written word. If you're in doubt, I would encourage you to pick up the phone, have a conversation, have that discussion about what the intention was in that email. When you're communicating with a virtual team, you want to be sure that you're understood, that you're understanding each other. It may take, and it will take, several times to be sure that the message is understood. You know as well as I know what can get lost in terms of body language, what can get lost when you are not clarifying for the individuals and being sure that you're on the same page. If you don't take the time to be sure that you're all on the same page by asking clarifying questions, asking questions that demonstrate an understanding, you risk one of the members, two of the members, the team going off in different directions and focused on things that you had absolutely no intention of them being focused on. So be sure to over-communicate. Be sure that you have received enough information to know that each of your team members actually do understand the message. It's important to be intentionally positive. Being positive is a means through which people can gain an understanding of what the message is you're trying to convey. You want people to want to listen to you. If you come off as assertive or forceful or stern, people may not be as engaged as they would be if you were intentionally positive in your communication. Avoid giving negative criticism, if you will. in a situation. I'm not suggesting that you don't bring up ideas, but what I am suggesting is that you put it in context of a positive statement. Another important point in cross-cultural communication is the use of humor. It is a risky place to go because it can be completely lost, and in a worst case scenario, it could be offensive. You want to be sure that you limit the use of humor unless 100% you understand how it's going to be interpreted by the individual receiving it. It's just best not to go there until you have a personal one-to-one relationship with the individual you're talking to. Judgmental comments can be dangerous, and we really don't know all the time that we're making comments that could be considered judgmental. Think about the statement, "I don't get it." If I was sitting with a friend and we were having a conversation and I said, "I don't get it," my friend would say, "Well, let me explain it again," right? If you're in a cross-cultural situation, saying "I don't get it" might be inferred or perceived as, "Oh, I'm not saying this clearly. This person doesn't understand me. What am I doing wrong in this situation?" You might want to avoid "I don't know" or "I don't get it" or "I don't like it." It really can be perceived as judgmental about the other individual instead of about yourself. In some cultures, it's not appropriate to give feedback in the public forum or making negative comments or criticisms about a statement, a decision, a project. It's best that you consider the message that you want to deliver before you deliver it. Avoid using criticisms. Avoid using derogatory terms where somebody may perceive it as an insult to them. Using language like, "You should think about this," "You need to do that." That's being judgmental and could be perceived as negatory or a criticism. You might want to think about how to turn that statement into an open-ended question to explore the thinking of the individual a little further. Avoid giving feedback in public. Couch it as an idea, a new way of thinking. Avoid being critical and judgmental. When do people break down? When does communication stop in a cross-cultural environment? A number of the most common causes of communication breakdown are around actually eliciting ideas in a public forum. It sounds like a positive situation from my perspective, but from others, it may not be. You might want to get those new ideas in private and then bring them into a public environment. I'll give you an example. In some cultures, the ideas will come from the most senior person in the room. You might want to reach out to the person that's actually doing the job and ask them the question, ask them for their ideas. They will immediately look 2-3 levels up to the most senior person in the organization to answer. You may actually have put that person in a very embarrassing and uncomfortable situation just by asking them their opinion or what their ideas are. Another barrier to communication or a cause of communication breakdown is by giving feedback in an inappropriate place. Giving feedback can be perceived again as judgmental. It may be more appropriate to give that feedback in a private place in a positive context, offering other suggestions, offering other solutions, rather than saying you don't like what somebody is doing. People will shut down. If they're receiving feedback as criticism, you'll find immediately people will shut down because they don't know what to say. They don't know how to react, or they might just be completely uncomfortable and or offended by what you've said. Let's practice. You're now the leader of a new virtual team. There are 5 members of your team that come from 5 different countries. I'd like you to write a message to them communicating the nature of the project and what they're going to do. Congratulations! You've now completed the course on Communication Fundamentals. You've learned a lot throughout this course. You've learned about the process of communication. You've learned about the different channels of communication. You've learned about the different styles of communication, the role of a manager and the importance of accuracy in certain situations, the role of a leader when communicating around big corporate issues. You've learned about some of the challenges that go around with a virtual team, a cross-cultural team. You've learned how to deliver difficult messages. You've learned about the process of communication, the communicator, the receiver, the distractions that are in between, and how to create channel richness through different types of communication. You've learned about a number of different styles of communicating, the power of silence, listening loudly, how to really hear what the person is saying, asking the questions to get the person to talk, your own talking voice, the art of persuasion, different approaches that you need to take for different types of decision makers, many different styles, many different choices for your unique situation. You've also learned about a number of strategies where you, as a communicator, are going to be under pressure, whether it's delivering bad news, talking to the skeptics in the audience, or in the worst case scenario, dealing with a crisis situation. You've learned a number of different tools and techniques and how you can approach those situations. And finally, you've learned about cross-cultural communication, how to manage a virtual team. What are the nuances that you need to look out for? The power of forgiveness, being sure that you have an open mind and are giving people the benefit of the doubt. Keeping that language simple, over-communicating, communicating over and over and over again to be sure that you're understood, asking the right questions, gaining the success of your team, and learning how to best communicate across many different cultures. Thank you for enrolling in the course. I hope you now feel that you are equipped to handle those difficult conversations, to present your message with impact, to persuade where you need to persuade, and to understand the importance of different styles of communication as you try to get your message across to whoever it is you're communicating with. The more you know about how people receive information, the more you know about how to flex your style of communication to the situation that you're in, the more success you're going to have in getting your message across. People by nature are emotional. Remember the message that I gave you. You have to move from the head to the heart, back to the head. Once you've got them emotionally, you can appeal to them logically. Find a place, connect with them emotionally, and you will have the success that you're looking for.